It hasn't been easy for this body of water. Historically was a freshwater lake. Now it's an estuarine body of water that runs 20 miles from North Palm Beach all the way to Ocean Ridge. This estuary evolved because of development in the last century. Seawalls replaced seashores, polluted water and muck enters from land runoff. And let's face it, more of us are coming to live here in Palm Beach County.
Historically, before man came here in the 1900s, you didn't have a seawall. You had a sloping shoreline. Wasn't impacted by a hardened seawall that once that wave energy hits that seawall, it reflects and really causes poor habitat. We have these deep dredge holes. This is a location where the deep dredge hole was. That hole in the 30s and 40s, where do you just go get fill? I can just go put a barge and a crane out there, dig from the water, it's not gonna impact anybody, and go ahead and build our roads, go ahead and build Everglades Islands with that material.
And development in this area happened pretty fast. And we had an influx of people moving down from the north. So seawalls went up real quick, roads were developed real fast, residential and commercial businesses were developed, and there wasn't a lot of infrastructure for proper mediation between the population density and the water body. And back in the day, we also thought that you just send it out to tide and it was out of sight, out of mind. So we had a thriving ecosystem here in Lake Worth Lagoon, submerged grasses that provided food and habitat for our wildlife. We also had a number of mangrove forests along our shoreline, and all of that was impacted with rapid development. And so we are trying to restore it to bring back a lot of those lost habitats that were historically here.
How do we turn back the tide, so to speak? In 1987, the County Commission created the Environmental Resource Management to tackle some of these problems. One of the solutions they came up with was to build an island, which would improve water quality while creating habitat.
How do you build an island? There really is only a couple components, sand and rock. And it sounds like it would be easy. You throw in a barge here or there, still kind of sounds easy, but it's not that easy.
How to build an island, the easy or the quick and dirty one is to make sure that you have identified an appropriate location. We're aware of this area as having good potential. It either had historic resources, historic seagrass and mangroves that we want to bring back, or we felt like this area could support that type of life.
Typically we place sand first, and then we place rock around that sand. That rock is important, that it helps to stabilize that sand from washing away from those heavy wave energies that we talked about from the boats.
So there you go, island built. Check. Not so fast. A lot more went into this process when we got to this stage.
These islands were built through a lot of planning, both planning in conjunction with the local community and local government entity, and also planning through engineering, doing lots of resource surveys in the water.
What are we dealing with? Is there a hole? Is there resources around here? Is there anything that we need to protect? From doing some historical backgrounds, we realized there was no resources here, and that makes it a perfect place to do a restoration project.
And then putting pen to paper and working alongside our permitting agencies to get this design supported.
Getting the community to join in, the island time, was easier said than done. And let's not forget about the money. In government terms, how are we going to pay for it?
You'll be happy to know that the funding for this project is secure and it'll be at zero cost to the city.
We really love this project, and we love the collaboration that we've had with you and the folks of the county. So it's really worked well. And
got city commission approval first. The next step was to reach out to the community. We went to the community and said, we would like to build a series of islands in this area. We evaluated this area. There's no seagrasses. It's not going to impact your view. It's not going to impact potential docks in the future. Are you guys on board? They said, is it just like South Cove? We have hundreds of people going to South Cove every day looking at that area. And that project really helped spearhead Tarpon Cove that we're looking at today.
Another thing to understand for the lagoon is that we have over 30 municipalities that are part of the watershed in the lagoon. So it's not one agency or two agencies, it's a lot of different partners. We have over 1 million people that live in the lagoon's watershed. So it's going to take a coordination of all of us to be able to realize that we all impact the health of the lagoon. So we all have to work towards the solutions.
We want to make sure that we are able to fund these projects in entirety. Some of them are funded through actual dollars that are federal or state or local taxing district dollars, and some of them are funded through in-kind or partnerships with the marine community.
Found the money, found a place to build, got community support, and now it's time for the sand. We're going to need a lot of sand and rock.
500,000 cubic yards of sand is super expensive. If you had to buy that sand at $45 a pop, you're looking at over $17 million. Nobody wants to spend $17 million on sand in Lake Worth Lagoon. So what we started doing is sharing with the marine community. Hey, if you have a dredge project, we have a place for you to bring this sand source to.
Working with other marinas in the area that are dredging lagoon sediment, making sure that it's compatible for placement within the water, and that's through a chemical analysis of the sediment. And then if it is lagoon compatible, we would like to use that and place it. So those are large costs that can be offset, both for those marine entities, which would have to pay severance fees for removing that and disposing upland in a landfill, and also for the county by making sure that we're not spending dollars purchasing sand that was, that could have been just placed in our project.
With that approach, this project has partnered with 2 different marinas, partnered with Florida Inland Navigation District, and partnered with the town of Palm Beach's channel dredging, and we've acquired over 350,000 cubic yards of sand at no cost to the county. If this project wasn't here, they would have had to take that 350,000 cubic yards of sand, put it on a dump truck through downtown or any of these communities and find another place for it. So that's called beneficial reuse. That beneficial reuse not only benefits the marine community, but it benefits restoration. Once we start partnering with the marine community, you start getting some sand, you've gotten some grants in place, and you could go out and hire a contractor like you see right over here with a barge and an excavator, a couple tugs, and start placing some rock. However, you need to find a place to stage that rock, to stage those barges. So again, that comes into the partnership of working with Florida Inland Navigation District to use one of their properties to stage this material for this stage of the project.
We get the sand here with lots of barges, many, many barges, and many, many bridge openings. Lots of activity on the waterfront. We bring it down from whatever marina it's coming from or from a staging site. So we work with marine contractors who place that material, usually below the water, so we're just not dumping to create lots of turbidity in the waterway. We want to make sure that it's placed in a certain way to make sure that it hits the spot on the plans that we're trying to build for.
We have sand and rock in place. We have water on all sides. Now what?
Right now, we've built some of the islands, and the next thing that we could do is we could either wait for the mangroves to recruit naturally, which they do, but we want to give it a jump start. So we'll have volunteer events, and we'll use that as an educational component.
Red mangroves are salt excluding type of mangrove, right? So they're actually holding salt out at the root, whereas black and white mangroves included into their systems.
Educate the public of the great resources that they have back here.
We use red mangroves and Spartina species to plant these islands. They're a local wetland, a coastal wetland plant. They create a vast biomass at their root base. They also hold sediments tight. And the reason that we want a complex biomass at their root base is because we're trying to provide habitat for intertidal creatures.
Your oyster balls are going to be in front of these, and we might move them down.
It's
It's called the oyster ball because we use it quite often in oyster restoration. Those whirlpools help feed the oysters and make them better filter feeders to help clean the water and to produce more baby oysters to seed other areas.
And to help offset some of our water quality impacts.
We've adjusted the project to incorporate more bird habitat. This project's gonna have 2 acres of bird habitat, the most bird habitat at any of our restoration projects to date. We're creating 4.5 acres of mangroves. We're creating 3.5 acres of rock and oyster habitat and 23 acres of seagrass habitat in this 46-acre project.
Now that's how you build an island. More importantly, that's why you build an island.
To learn of what has worked for us might work for other estuaries. We definitely have not completed everything that we want to do.
So what we are doing is by taking an area that has no habitat value to creating an area that does have habitat value. After we've completed this project, we're starting to see seagrasses come into this area. Birds are nesting on this island that haven't typically nested in this area. So that means there's food here for those birds. There's habitat for those birds. We are restoring this area to a better estuary. Who am I to say that it's working? I think the birds are telling you that it is.
We're making a difference. The environment is getting improved, we're providing habitat, and we're restoring this area back to pristine conditions once again in Palm Beach County.
Here in Palm Beach County, we've come to understand what it takes to help Mother Nature move from past mistakes so that we all benefit.